frame on before, so that will be coming out later tonight. As far as Battle Creek City items go, we still want to bring back the 2020 citywide rezone that came up a few meetings ago. We just haven't been able to put staff time into that, so we still have that just kind of on our to-do list. And then I wanted to revisit the sidewalk from Dudley Elementary School to Parkway Avenue. Janie reached out to the contact at Battle Creek Community Foundation and to the city of Battle Creek. This was something that Mr. Sweet and I had followed up on, and we were really wondering if anybody wanted to work on this from this committee along with Mr. Sweet, who I know is very passionate about this item. What we found out this week is that there is some money at the Battle Creek Community Foundation for this project. There was a pre-COVID estimate done by the city of Battle Creek, at least I think it was by the city of Battle Creek, maybe not, but there was a pre-COVID estimate done that constructing the sidewalk would be $70,000. You can just know that that's probably going to be more now because of the current environment and construction prices. So we're going to ask for a new estimate. We haven't made that request yet. Janie just was talking to them this week. But there is money at the Battle Creek Community Foundation, $34,000 that they've raised for this sidewalk. So I don't think that we want to, this is something that this committee is passionate about. It's a little outside what the Landbank does, but we've made the contact. I know Mr. Sweet is interested in working on it, and I just wondered if someone else from this committee would be interested in joining us. I mean, we can help where we can and support. This would be somewhere that the Landbank team could add support, but we wanted to bring it back up here now that we have this additional information and let you folks know that there's some legs to this, and if it's important to you, we want to know how we can help facilitate or at least get you connected, because there is some funding there. So that's one thing. Another thing would be that subcommittees, that's where a group of folks can work on a project that is of interest, and that's something we can talk about. How would we do that? So that's kind of a new item that we could do. And then just for informational items, we have scheduled a community walking tour. This is something we really wanted to do, which is just get folks out into the community. That's going to be August 4th from 5 to 6:15, and we're going to actually start at Sunlight Gardens, Devon's property, and we're going to take you to some land bank sites around there, but we're going to start at the garden and see what he's doing, and then walk and see some habitat projects and some transform this home projects. And we're going to try and keep it to an hour and just focus on some different things, different projects the land bank has done, but also just get eyes on the ground and see where we could do some different reuse strategies. And it will also be close to Washington Heights United Methodist Church, so when you're out, you can kind of think about their project too.
What was that date again?
August 4th. It's a Thursday, so it's the week before our next meeting. So we thought it was kind of good planning. It's right after work, so we were hoping it would work well for folks. So August 4th, 5 to 6:15.
And it's in your packet, everybody has a packet.
Yeah.
So it's on the Land Bank Authority report.
Yeah, the
It's about
CCLBA
5
report.
pages in.
And we'll send you a calendar invite and get it out to you. And then we wanted to give you an idea of what's coming up at the next meeting. So tonight we're talking a lot about properties. And the way that we've arranged these case studies is to get you thinking about the type of requests that come into us and how they fit into the overall process of what we're doing. And some of you have heard this before, but the land reuse strategy, some of the requests that are coming into us work really well under our current programs. We don't really need to create a new strategy for them because we already have a tool that works. So you're going to see that with some of the requests tonight. But then we have vacant land. That's really where we need to do a lot of thinking around with you folks and your input. So side lots are vacant land. Those are land that folks want to purchase and add to their property. So we're going to bring some of those requests to you in August so you can take a look at them. Amy and Janie have done a ton of work in the last couple of weeks going through the applications that have come in over the past 10 months or so. So they're going to bring those into you, and we're going to start talking about how vacant land works, what makes a good side lot, what doesn't make a good side lot. The other things we'd like to bring to you in August are some governing documents, at least some drafts So those are bylaws, how this committee would function. And one of the things that came up for us at the June meeting when we didn't have a quorum was how would the alternates help us fill in when there isn't a quorum? Or when there's a conflict of interest, because some folks are involved in other organizations and there might be a conflict of interest. So we've been thinking about some of that too, attendance policies, and then that conflict of interest, we had talked to our attorney about it as well. We might need a supporting policy for that too. So we've been thinking about how can we help you be successful and help us be successful, and we've got some research done, but we still need to write and put it together and bring it to you for some review. So that's what's coming up, and that is our staff report for you this evening. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
So, with all the absences from the June 8th meeting, the people that represented their interests at the June 8th, would there have been action if, there were, the slots were filled, if we were all here? Would there have been some action taken?
There would have been action taken, but because there was not a quorum, we could not take action. And so what we did was we contacted our legal counsel that evening, and he advised us to hold a committee of the whole committee meeting, which means that no motions or official actions could be taken. But since those folks came to the meeting and we had committee members here, we could hear their cases, and they're here again this evening. So that allowed us to hear their cases and what they were interested in doing. And then that's a kind of a learning curve. It's a new committee, and we're here to help you learn and take on this new role of leadership. So that's why you all got texts from Janie or emails and all of that. So we realized we needed to make sure that that was on your calendar and in the forefront of your mind. All right, any other questions, Dennis? You had your hand up.
I did. Regarding the community walking tour on August 4th, is that just for us or is the community invited to?
We're going to put it out on Facebook, but we really want it to be a positive, learning about projects and thinking about projects going forward. So.
So
It is.
the community.
It is open,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's open. Yep,
Thank you.
sorry. But we're hoping that it'll be a visioning session.
And I think Mr. Sweet had mentioned that he wanted to, it might be good for the advisory committee to get out and see some of the projects up close and personal. We have really great diagrams and maps, et cetera, that the staff share with us during the meeting, but adding the additional being present and seeing it might also be helpful as we do our work.
Yeah, we had hoped to do more of these, but I don't know how it got to be July 13th already this year. But it is. So we have some time to get a couple more in before it gets cold in Michigan. So we'd like to do a couple more. We wanted to look at lawn care, which is not exciting, but it's important. It's important to us and it's important to folks in the neighborhood. So we wanted to just do some of those things. This one's going to be looking at Devonsburg at the Garden. We have some vacant land across the street from him. We also have some Transform This Home and habitat rehabs that have been done along Wood Street in close proximity. And we have some vacant land there as well. So it's going to touch on several different aspects of Landbank work and partnership work that will be enlightening, I hope. And then we're going to include another phase that we may not get to that night, but that we're hoping will serve as a spark for you all to think about how infill might work and then future conversations. So we've got it planned out as 4 phases that we know we can walk to 3 within that time frame. Any other questions? All right.
So next up on our agenda are some discussion items, our case studies 1, 2, and 3. And as mentioned before, all of our guests were here, except for one, I think, at the time, and presented. You see some of the notes in the minutes from the June 8th meeting. It's not minutes, but notes of what was discussed. Both case study 1 and case study 3 For those who were present, they recommended it come to the full advisory today. So we're just going to do a synopsis of it, and then get into our discussion now that we have a quorum, and then we'll be able to later on make some decisions under new business.
So if you go to your PowerPoint, I mean, if you can't see it on the PowerPoint up here, there's a closer view of it in your packet, and we start on page 3. So this is the introduction to the HEX design case study, and oh, thank you. Look at that. It's diamond today. Okay. All right. So we're talking about the HEX design, which HEX owns, is owned by Hexon and Juliet Villa and Javier Fortuso, is that right? Fortuso, okay. And their property is in green. So these 3 properties right here. And we took Mr. Sweet's advice and added the surrounding properties. So the Adventist Village owns the property in yellow, and the former Family Dollar is the property in purple. So, and this is all on Michigan Avenue. So what we are trying to do, and what HEX is asking for, is for the purchase of the 2 properties in orange. And those are the Landbank properties. They are vacant properties, and they are adjacent to HEX's property on Michigan Avenue for their business. So right here, these 2 are the ones that HEX is asking to purchase. And in that, what they're trying to accomplish is they're in the process of rehabilitating the storefront on Michigan, and it is a print studio, and they do a lot of stuff. And they're partnering with the city to do cleanup on the adjacent parcel behind them, as well as wanting to do more on the properties that we own. They've obtained funding through the EPA funding that came to us for their phase 1 and probably their phase 2.
Phase 2 DEA.
And their baseline environmental assessment. That was through the Landbank. And they were also recipients of the Washington Heights Entrepreneurial Fund to assist them with this development. The short-term goal is to purchase the 2 lots and clean them up, and to make it more just more attractive for the corridor on Van Buren. We would be helping, the Landbank would be helping with the cleanup, as well as the title costs. So we're trying to build, all of us are trying to build the relationships with local businesses and our community. The long-term goal is to actually have a space where HEX can then expand their business. So eventually have that build out on the properties on Van Buren. And they could rent the space to local and small businesses. So this is the picture of the property in the winter time. It looks a lot better now. This is what they're doing, and there are always, because they're in the middle of a rehab, there's constant activity going on in cleanup. And it looks amazing. I went by there not too long ago, and it does look really nice. So what the Landbank is asking, and how the advisory committee works to take action on this, is that we're with this slide, we're just showing you what the Landbank does. So we researched the properties, we found out what the zoning was. Is it an adjacent property owner? What is the larger surrounding area made up of? And it is mixed use, commercial, residential, and some vacant parcels. We would be selling this parcel at fair market value. We could assist with the title work through the grant funds, and we could assist with some of the site cleanup through the grant funds. And then we bring that action to the advisory committee. The advisory committee is looking at reviewing this case study, determining if the land use and future use makes sense, and to begin to decide how staff, one, allocates resources, like do we meet the buyers halfway? Does that make sense? And what future ownership goals would look like. Promote ownership with local business owners, the BIPOC community members, etc. And then you, by voting on this, are in essence making a recommendation to the land bank board. And then we will take that back to the land bank with your recommendations. However they are, whatever they are. Oh, excuse me. However, we already went to the land bank board and they basically said, whatever you say is okay with them. Okay, is that good? All right, and I keep wanting to push that other button. Okay,
We got a question over here?
absolutely. So we have, the Hacks Design co-owners are here to answer questions, but I'm happy to answer any of the questions with the presentation.
Before we get into questions, it might be helpful for the
Hacks Design?
text design to also do their presentation, so that if you still have questions after both have been presented, then we'll get into the discussion then, because they might be able to answer some of the questions you might have.
So I might forget. And secondly, my question is for you.
It's for Amy Rose.
Amy.
Okay.
You said, I thought I heard you say that they would purchase some of the property and then rent it to other businesses for the purpose of renting, right?
The long-term goal for Hacks, and they can talk a little bit more about that, is to expand their business on Van Buren eventually, to build another building on Van Buren and to possibly rent space out. That was part of their presentation.
Okay.
Okay.
And again, if you want to look at your, what page is this? Page 5 of the slides, it kind of summarizes it as far as some of that information, as well as page 3, the second slide, kind of summarizes it. So if it's okay, I'm going to ask Hex to go ahead and present. Maybe they can talk a little bit more about how they want to utilize the space once it's cleaned up, and the future goals and those kinds of things. So I'll turn it over to them. We can give them the microphone and they can use that. Thank you.
No,
Is it on Hacks?
no. You put the button at the bottom.
Yeah, I am. Blue.
Maybe the volume's not up on the receiver or something.
There it is.
Like it's going
Takes a
blue.
little delay.
Fussy.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Calhoun. I'm one of the co-owners of Hacks Design Co. We recently purchased the building of 482 West Michigan there in Michigan Avenue back in November. And we're currently working to revitalize the building. We're currently going through our phase 1, which is the backside of the building, which is going to be a print studio. So right now we do t-shirt printing, we do graphic design, web design, and videography. What we want to do with the property is bring technology to the area and help attract youth to be interested in the things that we're doing. Right now, we partnered with the city to clean the back lot that we already own, and it was full of construction debris, tires, and the side lots are the same and are in the same shape. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we keep that clean and looking good for everybody. We want to come into the community and be a partner, not to take from it, but give back. So by saying that we want to redevelop that space in the future, we want to grow just like everybody else. But we want to also be able to provide a space for people so they don't have to struggle with what we did to find a building. So we can create something and partner with each other, build like a little hub or ecosystem for small business. So that's the plan with the 2 new lots.
And could you just also quickly touch on any conversations or thoughts around the adjacent properties owned by Family Dollar? Because I know that came up before, and
Yes.
Big Village. If you could
So
share with everybody where that stands.
The yellow section